This is Sirius FM.
Hey, I like that. Nasheed Yusuf. You know what Nasheed used to play for me. Alhamdulillah. I'm sure Rafeek Hassen also enjoys that. You know, people, it's amazing that we talk about the Bali bombing, we talk about the 9/11, talk about 7/7, etc., etc. But you know, these are false flag operations. Many talk about that, but you'll be so. It is shocking to note that many Muslim academics still believe that these nefarious acts were done by Muslims. Yeah, they'll come on. Some are professors, some are political analysts, and sometimes you just sit in amazement and wonder how could they regurgitate this? Are they perhaps maybe agents of these different world governments that are, uh, propagating this type of false flag operation so that the agenda of a one world disorder continues, or the agenda of selling arms and ammunition to more and more people, creating paranoia, creating a security industry, which, so many private security companies have mushroomed because of this terrorist fear, of this paranoia. PRASA will be employing 3,000 more security guards to go on the trains. So all this in context, we will be discussing this issue with Rafeek Hassan, the topic, false flag operations and their sinister motives. Rafeek Hassan, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Jazakallah khair for joining us, and how are you?
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Alhamdulillah, Brother Shafat. At least we know Sirius FM radio and Shafat's program is not false flag. You get the real news there.
Allah Akbar. That's why I bring the real man, Rafeek Hassan, because Rafeek, both you and I, we have so many friends, and some of them, so-called powerful academics, and I mean, few of them I know will actually believe that Muslims did 9/11. And they will go through with that story, and I look at them amazed. I say, how can this man be intelligent when he says? I mean, so you perhaps the hikmah comes in. Rafeek, talking about false flag operations, and we know it's a sinister motives. The next 10 minutes is yours, Rafeek. Conscientize us.
Okay. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala khatamil nabiyyin wa ba'd. The very meaning of false flag operations means that it is a sinister, very good word, you're using the appropriate word. It is a well-planned, calculated, top-level operation to blame somebody else, so that you hide the true perpetrator of the act. That's why it's called false flag. Sometimes they don't want to say, they don't blame anybody else. It's just that it's done and you don't know who did it. You don't really know who did it. If you take the assassination of Malcolm X, you still don't know really assassination of JFK, John F. Kennedy. There's sometimes these guys who do this false flag operation, they don't want to put the blame on anybody. They just want the operation done, cause paranoia, pandemonium, get somebody out of the way. But sometimes there is a need to blame the other side as a pretext to justify a future action. Now, I'll give you one simple example, of what false flag operation. Even those academics that Brother Shafat talked about, they know there's such a thing exists as false flag operation. They know it. If you take, for instance, let's go a little back in history, right? Let's go to the Crusade Wars of 1095, when the Crusade was by Pope Urban II, when he galvanized the Christian army of Central Europe and against the Muslim world and march, it's a crusade war right into Jerusalem. How did he justify it? The real reason is that Islam was knocking on the door of Europe. Islam was already in Spain, and they were called Saracens. Now, to use the Urdu word, the Pope was getting julab. He was now say, what's going on here, man? These Muslims are right at my doorstep. So he had to do something to stop it. But you have to create a false flag. And what he did, they hired people around Jerusalem to kill, Christians who were going for a pilgrimage there, to kill the Christians who were wanting to go to the Holy Land, Jerusalem, holy for Muslims, Jews, and Christians. They hired it. They did a false flag operation, blamed it on the Muslims, and in that way, whipped up sentiment on the Christian world to say, hey, we have to go and sort these Muslims out. Look what they're doing. They're stopping our guys from the holy sites and what have you. Here's one example. Let's take World War One. You know what triggered World War One. People who know the history, they know that World War One was triggered with the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand, of Hungary and Austria.
Yes.
Now,
In the Balkans,
we know...
in the Balkans, yeah. In the
Balkans.
Balkans.
Correct. That was a false flag operation to start World War One. It was a pretext. They know that was going to, let emotions go high, and it was a good trigger. A false flag is like exactly what happened now. I won't call it false flag. I'm just giving an example. The tragedy that happened in Beirut. A false flag is they're going to place, an explosive device, right? And all they do is they decide when they light it to get it go off, and then they blame somebody else for having done that, or kill somebody, like how they did, for World War One, the Archduke Franz Ferdinand. Like that, you said 9/11. 9/11 was a false flag operation. Over half of the Americans know now. There's enough evidence that it was a false flag operation done by, inside job, America and its allies, to get into Afghanistan, because the poppy plants were being stopped. There was gas discovered, which the Taliban government was going to sell to, not to America, but to South America and Russia, what have you. So they had to create a false flag and say Osama did it, and then say we go looking for him. Now, let's ask, is this possible? Why do people do this thing? There's plenty. The list is on and on. We can go. There's a very last one I want to give. I'm giving real examples which you can verify. In 31st of August, 1939 now, we're talking about, World War II time. You'll find the Nazis went across into the Polish border. They wanted to invade Poland, right? But you can't just do it. You've got to have an excuse. So they sent Nazi German soldiers dressed as Polish soldiers into the Gleewoods radio tower. There was a place called Gleewoods in the Polish side. And, they did a broadcast, made an anti-German statement, talking as Polish people. And they killed a couple German people, a farmer and things like that, left them there and came back across the border. And then they started in German and said, you see what the Polish guys did? They went on the radio. They want to make war with us. They killed our German people. Some of our citizens. Let's go to war with them. But it was done by Nazi Germany as a false flag operation, dressed as Polish people. This is documented. So why do they do this? Why are we wanting to round up? Why do people do this? The Quran answers this. Remember the dawn of creation in Surah Baqarah chapter 2 verse 30, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told the angel, I'm going to create my, Khalifa. I'm going to put my representative of earth. And they said, will you put someone who's going to make mischief, shed blood, while we, glorify you and make your zikr and hamd baritala? And Allah said, Inna a'lamu ma la ta'lamun. I know that which you do not know. Here is already the angel saying, Allah, you're going to put somebody who's going to make musti, who's going to make mischief. I'm putting in the words now. Make false flag operation. Kill unnecessarily and blame others. Are you going to allow this to happen? So here is it at the dawn of creation. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the angels already knowing that human beings are going to do this terrible thing, wrong thing, lie. Then in chapter 2, same Surah Baqarah, not far down, Brother Shabbat, in ayah number 41, this will sort of round it up from an Islamic perspective and Quranic perspective. Allah says, why do you mix the lies with the truth? Why are you mixing the lies with the truth? And why are you hiding the true thing when you know exactly what you are doing? Right? Now here Allah is saying, there are people who mix the lies with the truth. That's what false flag operations are about. They mix the lies with the truth. They cover up. The German guy puts a Polish uniform on and he lies to the people that the Polish guys did this thing. Why do you mix the lies with the truth? Why do you hide the truth? Why? To make fitna and fasad on earth. So, in this country, in South Africa, we saw it. We saw it with our own eyes, Brother Safar. In the 80s, during the IFP in KZN, IFP, ANC struggles in the townships in commercial. The SAP will come and give guns to the IFP side and say, should the same SAP will go and give guns on the ANC side. They'll wear uniforms. They will wear ANC uniforms and go in an IFP area and kill. And they'll wear IFP uniforms and go into an ANC area and kill and blame the others. This is what happens in the world. And I think we need to be aware of this. We need, I like when you said at the beginning, and I'll end with what you started with, is that, yes, on the one hand, we cannot just, there's a difference between a conspiracy theory and a conspiracy fact. Now, that's where people go wrong. They think the moment you say a conspiracy, it means it's just a theory and it's just assumption. No. A theory is an assumption, but a conspiracy, the meaning of a conspiracy is to conspire. It's to a false flag operation. These are happening. Conspiracies are real. Conspiracies are facts. Only thing you got to get the facts and not the theories and assumptions. So when you have, once you have the facts of something, you can say 9/11 was a conspiracy, but here are the facts. It doesn't mean the word conspiracy doesn't mean that it is wrong. False flag doesn't mean that it is wrong. It means that it happened and the person covered up. They were lying. They covered up. They're trying to cover up that who did it and blame it on somebody else. So I think, to end, there's a theory. Now I'm putting it as a theory, a conspiracy theory, that this coronavirus is just a false flag for the West to use this as a excuse for the failure, for the economy that was already collapsing, for the wars that they have already lost, for all the failures at the macro level, the so-called democracy and Western values and all that has all failed. Now they can't tell the world we failed. So this virus is a good excuse. The virus is there. Please don't get me wrong. The virus is real, but they're using the virus as the excuse, as a false flag to hide their real, weaknesses and their failures, and put the buck on the poor virus who can't talk and say this is the cause of why our economies have collapsed and why the West is collapsing.
I tell you, Rafeek Hassen, absolutely brilliant indeed. Inshallah, before we let you go, your parting words this morning.
Well, we are saying we are still in the sacred month of, Zulhijjah, the last month of the Islamic calendar. The month that is coming is the month of Muharram, our New Year. Make dua for the people of Beirut. My parting word, a tragedy indeed. That conspiracy is still unfolding. What happened, how it happened, let's get the facts. But a tragedy indeed of a colossal magnitude. Allah make it easy for them and may the perpetrators, be found. And inshallah, we make dua that it doesn't escalate into a bigger conflict in the region.
Jazakallah khair, Rafeek. You go well, and inshallah talk to you soon. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Yes, sir. Rafiq's parting words saying, make dua for Beirut. Still, yes, unfolding what really happened in Beirut, Yusuf. You know it, we know it, we have a gut feeling about it. But may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make it easy for the Muslims and those that are perpetrators, those that are the third force, and those that are perpetrating these conspiracy theories. And then sometimes say conspiracy theories, trying to say, no, it's a fabricated thing. That person doesn't know what he's talking about. But there's so much into these conspiracy theories.